at that time, I was like really more scared than I was the first time. Because the first time it was just me and I was a teenager and immortal and I was like, fix me. This time I had a husband, a career, a beautiful daughter who was 4 at the time. And that's actually how I started into meditation and mindfulness. And because I was so scared. I
Yeah.
was sitting in the dialysis center waiting for, some family members to be worked up to see if they could donate. And I just couldn't handle the anxiety. And the doctors were very, very willing to give me some medication to help with that. And that would have been fine. I do believe that there's a place for that. But at that time, I was already siphoning all of these toxins out of my body 3 times a
Yeah.
week. So I discovered guided imagery and listened to a lot of that. Um, my husband's twin brother ended up being my donor.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become the best possible versions of themselves and to strive for overall health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, all of the healths, without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who've been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time somebody shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. I was bummed too because the content we made was so good, but it would be like I would just suddenly.
Oh, it was like it would be like I stunned you with whatever wisdom I dropped and you couldn't
Yeah,
move.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
funny. No, no problem. Like I believe that things happen as they should, and not even should, but for everyone's greater good. So,
yeah, it happens when it's meant to happen. So,
mhm.
for the listeners, this is Jenn Fredericks, and we actually had an entire interview. What was it, like a couple months ago?
Yeah,
It was still cold.
it was still cold. Yep.
Yeah, and I went to edit her episode and my internet just wasn't working for us. So she agreed to come back.
I
So thank
did.
you. I really appreciate you coming back.
I
Um,
enjoyed the conversation last time so much. I did. So
yeah,
this
it was
is just a
good.
bonus.
Yeah. And then side note, I see that you were on Alicia's podcast.
Yes.
Alicia, she's one of my good friends. So
It's not like I stalk you guys or anything, but I do follow you on social. And so I did notice that you tend to have some fun outings together. And so I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's super fun. Yeah, that was a very interesting podcast and premise as well. And so, for those of you who are out there who are coaches or practitioners of any sort, it was cool. We did a coaching session, which is nice because coaches need coaches.
Yes.
And she actually really helped me release some emotions that hadn't been talking that needed to
Mm,
talk. And they did. And then we had a lovely conversation too about, how I help the world. And so then it's great to be able to connect with you again. We had even a super fun conversation after the
we
podcast
did.
ended because we both enjoy music and performing and all those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, happy to be in the circle.
Awesome. So can you again tell the listener a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
Mm, yeah. Well, I am, it's funny how we all start out this way, right? I'm a mom, daughter, wife, sister, friend. We sort of all define ourselves by those things outside of us that we know and that we're all familiar with. I was in marketing for 16 years. Now I'm a coach and a personal resilience practitioner. I'm a chronic illness patient. I'm a
Mm,
caregiver for a loved one. But at the core of me, because I've done a lot of work over the last 7 years since I began coaching, I know that I'm love. So that's one thing I like to do with my family and or my clients is redirect us to something that's not always measurable by the outside world or defining ourselves by the outside world. And so while I am all of those things I mentioned, at my core, at my inner truth, I know that I am love and energy and connection.
Yeah.
And I'm that way because the divine source creator
Yeah.
allowed me to materialize in that way. And life has shown me my path and how to live that out every day.
I love that. And I love it was Prosilience, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
prosilience. Mm-hmm.
Prosilience. We had this conversation and we talked about I don't maybe it's life, maybe it's the things we do in life, but is it really ever a failure or is it just how resilient we are? And then you mentioned something that I'd like you to dig into is
Yeah.
what if we didn't have to fall down so far?
Yeah. So
I got
as
chills
I
when I said that.
as I mentioned, I am a caregiver for a loved one. I've been managing my own chronic illness for 3 decades. I'm a 2-time kidney transplant recipient. And, I just did it. I was first diagnosed when I was a teenager. And so I just did it. Like, I'm immortal, fix me. The next time I had other things to live for, my husband, my daughter, my work. My daughter was diagnosed in 2015 when she was 7 with a low grade brain tumor. And she's 15 now. We've been managing it very well for, 8 years. But coming out of that diagnosis and traumatic experience in the hospital, I didn't know how to support her. I knew how to support myself, but I fell down. I fell down hard. And I knew that I didn't want to live that way anymore. That I didn't have enough energy to pull myself back up every time a new challenge or something materialized that had to do with her illness or anything. So I started doing a lot of research about resilience and what it is, and compassion fatigue and compassion resilience. And I found prosilience. That's short for proactive resilience. And it was a framework developed by an organizational industrial psychologist named Linda Hoops. And I read her book, Prosilience. And it was like she had watched my life since I was 15 years old and put language to it and a framework around it. So now when people ask me, how are you so resilient? Like, I can say I've innately been doing it, but here we can practice it and you can strengthen yourself so that when challenge and adversity comes your way, you don't have to fall down and then pick yourself back up, which is the traditional definition of resilience, which is fine. But like you said, I didn't want to pull myself back up each and every time anymore. And so let's take a look at how we can stop ourselves, catch ourselves before we fall, and really find a sustainable way to support ourselves as life throws things our way.
I love that. I love it mainly because I've found myself in situations in my life where, I fall down, I get up, I fall down, I get up, I fall down. And there's been times where I just wanted to stay on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And literally on the floor. I used to lay down in my laundry room. I lived by myself for 2 years. And I would lay down in my laundry room, face down on the floor, and just cry. And I didn't want to get up.
How did you then?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. I just knew that I had to keep going,
Right. Right. And so that's pretty much, I think, how those of us who consider ourselves resilient or tap into our resilience operate. What I really appreciate about this framework, knowing about the 4 building blocks of resilience, and then how we can repair our burnout and then prevent our burnout by proactively preparing ourselves for the other challenges that will come our way, because let's face it, we're human and life happens. And so that's why I really believe strongly in this framework and this concept and spreading this message, because I don't want people to have to fall down.
Yeah. That's a perfect pause. Yeah. I like listeners like really let that sink in. Like, what if you didn't have to fall down so far? And I'm sure some of my listeners have been in that to that point where they don't want to get up off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's it's a hard place to be in, but it's a well, I mean, obviously it's a better place to be in once you've been in that mindset and you
Mm-hmm.
still got up anyway.
Right. And let's normalize that.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but normalize the human experience. And there are going to be moments when we are just drained and we can't pull ourselves all the way back up. And that's okay. And if you've done it quite a bit and you're tired of doing life that way, let's find your way to do life differently. So one thing I share is that you don't wait until things are better to live better. What can we do for you to live better right now?
Yeah.
It's not like everything's going to be hunky-dory and I'm Pollyanna and the sun always shines and glitter comes out of the unicorns, you know what? But we have the opportunity and we have the choice to decide how we meet and respond to adversity and challenges. And so let's fill your toolbox with different ways. That's what coaches are great at.
Yeah. I also love on the topic of coaching, like we help people find the answers that they already have. You know, we're not standing there or I'm not standing, I'm sitting. We don't sit here and like vomit, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. Like our job is to help you find the answers you already have because you have them.
You do.
They're in your body. We just help you get them out of your body.
Yes. And the same is, I'm coming on here and I'm talking about a framework or a system, right? I'm talking about the prosilience and the 4 building blocks of resilience. But what you can do is discern what feels right and true for you and how you want to build your resilience or not. And especially the idea of one of the building blocks is solving problems using your resilience muscles. And the data and the research that Linda Hoops has done shows that we have 7 resilience muscles, all of us. We all have these seeds of resilience muscles within us, although we may flex them differently or engage them differently, or one may be really strong and the other one not quite as strong. And so the goal of this is to have a more balanced ease of access to all 7 of those resilience muscles so that you don't drain your energy each time trying to solve a problem.
Yeah. That's really cool. My question that came to me was, do these muscles have names?
They do have names. Well, I mean, they don't
They
have
do?
like, they're not like Sally and Sam and
I got you.
Yeah. Positivity, confidence, creativity, priorities, connection, structure, and experimenting. And these are all different muscles that help us engage our energy to solve problems in different ways. And so as I read those out and said those, you probably could see a connection between some of them and how some of them might really support each other. They all really support all of them, but there are some that work better in different pairs. And one thing I'd like to share, because I've been thinking about this a lot since my experience managing chronic illness and caring for someone with a chronic illness and working with other caregivers, these muscles can be difficult to access. Mainly because maybe we aren't highly skilled at managing our energy, our different energy, and our energy is what fuels resilience. So we could have the strongest resilience muscles ever. And if we don't have enough of our human energy to fuel them, they aren't going to be able to help us. And so one thing I've been playing with is, as a caregiver or as a parent or someone who's at work who's feeling burnt out, and people are like, oh, make sure you take care of yourself. Like, one, what does that even mean? When people would say that to me,
that's the question that came into my head. What does that even mean?
When I was like in the hospital with my daughter for a month, people were like, take care of yourself. I'm like, what does that mean? And the more I think about it, it is the skill of learning to manage your human energy. And in this framework, there are four of them. There's our physical energy, our mental energy, our emotional energy, and our spiritual energy. And they're all interconnected and they all support each other. It doesn't mean they all need to be full at the same time. But that's really what I've been thinking about is, yes, I want to get out and talk about building your proactive resilience and accessing your resilience muscles. And let's do an assessment to find out which of your muscles are the strongest and easiest for you to access, and how let's build a plan so that we can strengthen those other muscles so you have more support to solve problems. But none of that means anything if we don't start first with managing our energy.
Yeah, 100%.
So I kind of think the evolution of self-care is going to be building energy management skills.
Yeah.
Plus some mani-pedis or massages. Those are always nice.
Yes.
And they can fall into the physical energy piece.
Yes. One of my I don't know what to call them, pillars.
Yeah.
Sections, I have 7, I'll just call them pillars for the sake of this conversation. 7 pillars of health. One of them is pamper the beast. Because sometimes we just need to take that break. I see it as a break. Also self-care, of course, but like pamper yourself. Go put one of those masks on your face and let it sit, and then like stare in the mirror and try not to laugh.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Because humor and joy is a form of resilience.
Yeah.
What's also interesting about that is so I was doing a 4-week workshop online with caregivers of children with an illness, and we were all supporting. It was a lovely energy, loved the space. But one thing didn't resonate with the person because everyone was talking about how they go to the spa or they get massages or they go do some retail therapy. And she just looked completely like, deer in the headlights. So we talked about, well, what is your way? And she's like, well, I think my way is actually going for a walk. That's pampering for her. It's like going for a walk or sitting down and playing the piano that she doesn't have time to play. And so I love that we can all hold that space for people to figure out what is your way to pamper the beast.
Yeah. And sometimes we talk about mani-pedis and going to a spa, getting a massage. And if it was me 15 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So figure out what you can do with what you have where you are. So 15 years ago for me would be take a bubble bath. So hot that it hurts when you first get it.
And the beast screams.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think for me, it would have been like, go get a fountain Coke from McDonald's.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to cost money, So I just wanted to set that straight because I know
love that.
The past me would have been immediately dismissing it like, oh, I can't afford that. Nope. And then I'm missing out.
Yeah.
So
past me also would have been like veg out in front of the TV. And now it's more like read a book on personal development or energy or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. Back to the conversation of energy. I know I bounce around a lot because that's how
combos work, man.
But when you were talking about managing your energy and when you were in the hospital and they're like self-care, you're like, what does that mean? It reminded me of one of the many times in the last 15 years, I think, that my stepdad's been in the hospital for really bad things, and he's still kicking. So, but one of them was he had prostate cancer, so he had it removed, and then within that he got this wild infection, and
Mm.
they had to wear like hazmat suits and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, I lived far away. I lived about 90 miles away, and I didn't know how severe this was because my mom was just me, oh yeah, he's in the hospital, he's okay. So I came
Protecting
up to
you.
visit. I came up to visit, and I was like, I saw my mom and I was like, Mom, I mean this out of lots of love, but you look like shit.
Yeah.
Have you eaten? Have you been eating? Have you been sleeping? Have you been doing this? So I took a couple days and I took care of her to get her energy back up. And
Yeah.
then, we had the conversation of you got to take care of you so you can take care of him.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
it's the put your own oxygen mask on first. Like we hear it,
mhm.
it's cliche. It goes in one ear and out the other. And it's so true and foundational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes we need that person outside of ourselves
Mhm.
to help you get that energy back up. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like a saint or anything, but I'm glad I was there to be like, you look like shit. Are
Well,
you?
yeah, even to like bring awareness, because sometimes when you're in that situation, I've been in it several times,
Yeah.
you're just in survival mode, which is okay. Sometimes we just need to be in survival mode
Hmm.
to get through that. But then taking the time to rest and refuel after that. So you're not starting from the very bottom, like your battery can be all the way drained, like a phone, right? Just take some time to plug yourself back in.
Hmm.
What are the things you can do to boost your physical energy some, your mental energy, emotional energy is a big
Hmm.
one when you're
Yeah.
impatient or caregiving for someone who's impatient. How do you work with the difficult feelings that you're experiencing? And then I really feel that a lot of my energy comes from the spiritual energy aspect, that connecting to something with a sense of meaning and something outside of yourself and a purpose. And for some of those, it can be God or source creation. For some, it could be, at, at performing music. It's different
Hmm.
for everyone. It could be being out in nature. It could be hugging a tree.
Hmm.
um well, I said they're all interconnected. I really believe a huge part of it is finding your connection to meaning and purpose, especially during those difficult times.
Yeah. I know sometimes for me, I just have to sit, like, I'll sit here and just get lost in the work, whether it's making content or talking to people or coaching people. And
Mhm.
I'll just sit here and I'll just be like, and let myself hear how loud the silence is
Mhm.
because my brain is constantly, there's always something there. Sometimes it's even hard to sleep. And I know if I just sit here and let myself listen to the silence, that's a recharge for me too. Be like, oh, I don't have to be thinking these thoughts all the time, 24/7. It's
Yeah,
okay to just sit here and exist for a minute, you know?
I love that. And
Hmm.
what you're doing there too is, I hear in it, filling two of your energies. So yes, your spiritual energy, because you're connecting to yourself and your breath and that thing that is with us all the time. And also the mental energy, because you're allowing yourself the space for some mindfulness,
Hmm.
which we know strengthens mental energy, and also recognizing what's important for you at the time and not multitasking anymore, like just being present and in that moment.
Yeah.
What a wonderful practice.
Yeah. And well, not recently, but I always thought highly of myself because I was such a good multitasker. And I learned the only time that ever really served me was when I was waitressing. Because, like, can I get a side of ranch? Can I get some ketchup? What would you like to order? Well, it's like you have to have that multitask brain when you're a server.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, other parts of my life, I would start something here and then start something here and then start something here, but I would never finish any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like a tweak of my what's the word? Thinking?
Yeah, and
Just a tweak. Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. There you
Well,
go.
and it's interesting because there's research out there somewhere, I don't remember where I heard this, that if you're working on something and you try to multitask and do something else, it actually takes you 20 minutes to really get back into what you were first working on.
Mm.
So if you think about draining energy and plugging energy leaks so you don't lose all of your mental energy and all of that, being able to focus on the one thing and take that to as much completion as you want to or can is great before moving on, because otherwise you're draining energy to bring yourself back to that moment.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Dang. How many 20 minutes have we wasted trying to bring ourselves back?
Oh man. I like, if I had a penny for every one of them, I wouldn't have to work the rest of my life, right?
Yeah. I'd borrow a dollar. Well, I'm going to do a hard turn.
Okay.
Woo. And I want to ask if you can share your story about your own chronic illness and what it was, what happened, how many
Sure.
transplants.
Sure. Well, we're only on 2 transplants right now, so that's great. Well, I was like through middle school, just kind of always sickly, like a lot of mono and walking pneumonia and strep throat and everything. And then I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome because I just couldn't like get back. I just wasn't getting back to my normal self. And actually, it turned out that it wasn't chronic fatigue syndrome. It was kidney failure at 15 years old, which they believe happened because of an untreated case of strep throat, which is like blew my mind. So I was very, very blessed that my dad was a good match. And so after 6 months of dialysis, his workup was done and he was able to donate a kidney to me. And it went pretty well. You know, I had an acute rejection, they call it. So I ended up back in the hospital for about a month to try to get that turned around so that my body would accept the kidney and my body wouldn't damage the kidney. So that stay took a lot of resilience, also a lot of TV watching, which I was okay with. So that kidney then kicked into gear and supported me for 18 years. I was able to graduate from high school, go to college, met my future husband, get married, buy a house, adopted our daughter, like all of those major milestones that I was able to experience because of that kidney. And then in 2012, it signed off. It was like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm way done. And at that time, I was like really more scared than I was the first time, because the first time it was just me and I was a teenager and immortal and I was like, fix me. This time I had a husband, a career, a beautiful daughter who was 4 at the time. And that's actually how I started into meditation and mindfulness. And because I was so scared.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the dialysis center waiting for, some family members to be worked up to see if they could donate. And I just couldn't handle the anxiety. And the doctors were very, very willing to give me some medication to help with that. And that would have been fine. I do believe that there's a place for that. But at that time, I was already siphoning all of these toxins out of my body 3 times a week. So I discovered guided imagery and listened to a lot of that. My husband's twin brother ended up being my donor.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's a joke there, because I like to say my husband's twin brother, and then most people are like, well, are they identical? Because then is your husband just a jerk? Why didn't he just donate to you? But no, they are fraternal. And so my husband wasn't a great match. But yeah, we just celebrated 11 years out, almost 12 in September from that kidney transplant. So that's my story. I feel extremely grateful to have been given 3 chances at life.
Yeah.
And know that it's just a treatment. It's not a cure, but do what I can, stick to the regimen and protocols that my doctors give me. I'm trying to get better at supporting myself with some of that physical energy and movement. I don't really love to exercise. So I dip my toe in there every once in a while, but otherwise it's serving me very well, and actually led me to, like, the pain that I experienced. And then also with my daughter's diagnosis, with my passion to not see people suffering, has led me to my purpose and the coaching that I'm focusing on now.
I was going to ask, do you think that there was some sort of shift in your mindset that might prepare you for if there's a next time you need a transplant?
Of course. Again, I know that this is a treatment. Kind of a veteran at it now, but there are strategies within the framework of Prosilience that I talk about as well. And I see that this has played out in my life since I was young. And the strategies with how you want to meet a challenge, you can reframe the challenge, like take something that looks or feels like danger and find a way to look at it in a different way. You can change the situation. Not really applicable in my case with this health thing. Or you can accept what is and then adjust and adapt. And I tend to be an optimistic realist where I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. How do I want to experience it? And what are the ways I can support myself in experiencing it that way? And so I don't think too far into the future. I go day by day as much as I can and take care of myself the way that I should, except for the exercise, which I'm trying to get better at. And I know it's a possibility. So that being the case, I also now have more support in knowing how to fuel up my energy should that challenge come again.
I love that. And just a side note, I think, like, with the exercise thing, just because that's what I coach people on.
Okay, cool.
Like, the thing, we have a tendency to look at exercise as something that we have to do. And one of my jobs is to help you find something that you love to do so that you want to do it. So one of the clients I'm working with, if she is told that she has to do something, she will rebel and not do it. And so what I'm working with her right now is trying to relate to how you feel afterwards, because another story that we're told is that you need to beat yourself up in the gym and feel like crap afterwards. And that's not the case. Like, the whole point is for you to feel better after you exercise, or even sometimes I don't even call it working out. I just like to move my body. Do you like to dance? Do you like to walk? Do you like to, swim? All of that is movement. And if you can find something that you love doing and you don't even think that you're exercising,
right,
then it's a mind shift,
I love that. Can you help me with something else here? So I know what I like to do, and I get really proud of myself when I do it. I like to do yoga. I like to go, even if it's a slow walk. I love to dance. Sometimes then those that love me will say, but you really need to do cardio. You got to keep your heart healthy. I'm like, yeah, but I just did. I did this and I feel good and it didn't hurt me. It didn't make my muscles too tight. So it's that thought of not enough. Even though I'm doing something, it's not enough. And so then I stop.
It's not enough. It's not enough according to your outside, the people that aren't you.
Right.
So if you look at it that way, like, maybe they think it's not enough because it wouldn't be enough for them. But if you feel good afterwards, and by the way, those are cardio.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of what I like in my teaching is the health and fitness industry is so up. Like, and what it's so confusing to people, you
Yeah.
know? And I used to be a cardio bunny. I was a spin instructor, which I am going back to. It's a long story. I had to quit because I had plantar fasciitis in both feet.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I don't need to teach 9 classes a week in order for me to, be healthy. And um, even spin is really hard and not something that's required. We're only
Mhm.
required, and I don't even like the word required, but our bodies need like moderate exercise every day, maybe 30 minutes
Right.
for it to be enough, you know?
Yeah.
And oh, I had a point. I don't remember where I was going with this. Oh, and so one of the things that we're told is that we need to do like an hour of cardio every single day, and it's just not, that's actually not good for us to do that much cardio unless you're training for something, like if you're
Right.
training for a marathon or a
Training how to run
triathlon.
away from a bear. Like
Exactly.
that's when I would run.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that insight, and it's like I know it,
Hmm.
right? I know it in my body. I know when I feel good doing it. It's getting back into that wisdom and accepting it. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with human design. It's this cool
Maybe.
kind of modality where it's like your energetic blueprint that you're born. It's kind of astrology mixed with a bunch of other different things.
Oh.
But anyway, based on my energy type, I do move the way that my energy is designed to move. And so it's those things of being very grounded to the fact that what I am doing is enough and I'm doing it the right way for me,
Hmm.
instead of having it's the same way as building a business, having all of the people outside you tell you how to build your business and it maybe not work. And then you really ground into your authentic way of doing it and connecting with your people.
Hmm.
It's that complete reminder of just coming back to yourself, coming back to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I try to help people do is reconnect their mind and their body,
Mm-hmm.
because we're told all these rules. I don't know about you, but I was a yo-yo dieter my whole life. So my weight went up and down and up and down and up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually worse for you than just staying the same weight your whole life. Um, but like each diet I went on, I adopted a new set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I wasn't dieting, I still had these rules in my head,
In
like
your
don't
head.
eat after 8 o'clock, don't eat carbs, which is bullshit, by the way. Everybody
Yeah,
needs carbohydrates, barring any metabolic conditions, whatever.
sure.
Um, so like we take on all these rules, and even when we think we're not dieting, we're still dieting because it, at least for me, if I was breaking one of the rules, then came guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like there's so many people like fitness influencers who don't they didn't get their education in nutrition and human, that's a new word,
That is,
human.
I like that one.
Human movement science, and all the stuff that actually tells you how our bodies function.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to go listen to the chick on Instagram with the 6 pack and showing what I eat in a day videos. Eat
Right.
this
Oh,
and look
and by
like
the way,
me.
I'm 20 and I'm 48, so that's not going to work for me. Uh,
Yeah. Everyone
this
has the
from
same 24 hours in a day. No, that's we
exactly.
don't.
We actually don't. You don't know what you're talking about. It, you saying that and reminding people to, come back to themselves and connect their mind and body and what feels good to you. It reminds me of I was facilitating a workshop one time, and I meant to say, I invented a new word. I meant to say, we are going to sit squarely in our knowing. And I ended up saying, we're going to squit in our knowing. And so now anyone who is in that class, they'll text me every once in a while and they'll be like, hey, I squitted today. I'm like, that sounds completely, and that let's not share that information. But no, I love it when they do, because I mean, that means
Yeah.
that they are living authentically to themselves and their bodies and their minds and their emotions and who they are meant to be here on this earth. And it just brings a
Yeah.
smile to my day. So if anyone out there wants to let me know that they're squitting, I'd be happy to hear
I will
it.
squit right now.
Yes. Thank you.
Let me grab my roll of toilet paper.
Right. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just shared that story. Yes, those are the words I come up with.
That's awesome. That reminds me, in the coaching community where I got all my coaching education, there's been times when the main coach who teaches the classes, like he'll say something so powerful and we're thinking, fuck you and also
Yeah,
thank you. So they
right.
came up with "fuck you."
Oh, thank you
So
very much.
anytime he says something like super powerful, I'll type in chat "fuck you."
Fuck you very much.
And if you're just listening to this, it's a THUCK if you're not
Uh-huh.
watching the video. So
That's very, yeah, good, good, good.
yeah.
That's awesome. That kind of stuff fuels our energy too. The
Yeah.
giggles and the lightheartedness and not being so heavy inside of ourselves all the time. It's important. And we as kids,
Yeah.
I just read something where kids laugh 300 times a day and
Oh, wow.
adults maybe 15 to 20. And when we laugh, it releases this whole beautiful, magical neurochemical cocktail within our body that supports
Yeah.
us versus deteriorates our health. So let's laugh more. Let's squit
Yeah.
and laugh and
Let's
fuck
quit.
people.
And that's amazing.
TH.
TH. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I was having this conversation with somebody about the laughter piece. Like laughing is my favorite thing to do. My second favorite thing to do is make other people laugh. And like it's a cool thing to say laughter is the best medicine, but for me, like laughter has saved my life a few times,
Mm-hmm.
dark times on the floor, not wanting to
Yeah.
get up, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, and
laugh.
that's one thing that I don't have to. I like to share with the people that I work with. Like every once in a while, you're going to say something that's going to trigger a pop culture quote or song. And sometimes I need to acknowledge it. And it's so interesting because it normally happens in those times where it's getting a little heavy. And it's not that I want to bypass the heaviness, because we want to acknowledge it and accept it as part of our experience and find a way to not sit in it, not squid
Yeah,
in it all the time.
that's it.
And so I'm super, super grateful that the people that I end up working with are ones that will take that in stride, and actually we end up crying from laughter
Hmm.
sometimes in sessions versus crying from, well, I mean, we cry from the heaviness as well. I hold space
Right.
for that. But like when you can cry from some laughter,
Yeah.
it just lightens all of your energies.
Even if it comes with a little trickle.
Even, I don't know what you're talking about. Does that go along with squitting? It might.
My old intro for this podcast used to say something about I talk to people and their stories can make you cry, laugh, and maybe even pee your pants a little.
That is great.
Yeah.
I remember walking home from an outing with a friend once, and she had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I just couldn't help myself. Like we would walk like 10, 15 steps, and then I'd say something else funny, and she'd have to like bend over and like sit down
Cross
on
her
the
legs.
ground. And she'd be like, shut up, shut up, shut up. But that's a memory that's going to stay with us forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for you,
Oh dear.
and you answered it once, but it could be different today,
It
so
could.
it could totally be different. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
I think it's the same. Don't wait until things are better to live better. None of us were guaranteed an easy go at this life. And we're here. We have a choice in how we respond to things. So let's respond in a way that's life-giving.
Boom.
Boom.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jenn Fredericks signing off. Until next time.